Hi, this is Scott Garibay, and today I am talking about Admiral Raddus from Rogue One. There are spoilers in this. So Admiral Raddus is a character in the new Rogue One, and he is a Mon Calamari. So as soon as you say Mon Calamari, everybody thinks Admiral Ackbar immediately from Return of the Jedi and many other instances within the Star Wars canon. But the thing that's interesting about Admiral Ackbar is he became absolutely famous for the one line that he said, which is "It's a trap." Right? It's a famous line. It's an absolute core reference from Star Wars that many people know. So I was really happy to see Admiral Raddus in Rogue One because I really like the Mon Calamari race. I think Admiral Ackbar is so memorable. And did a great job of establishing the Mon Calamari as these brilliant starfighter strategists, right? And so it's really fantastic to get to see Admiral Raddus in this film. And I think one of the reasons why is when I look at Admiral Raddus is one of my favorite characters in the film. I just really enjoyed his performance. Admiral Raddus, the character, he's alien, so he's completely CGI when he's on screen. Actually, that's a good question. You know what? He might be from a practical effect. It's a good question, but I do know the actor. So the actor is Paul Casey, and Paul Casey has previously done some work in Doctor Who, and he also worked in Star Wars 7. So, and I thought he did a great job. I really have a huge, the more I've seen Rogue One 4 times now. Last time I saw it was with a friend. Actually, the assistant pastor at my church went with him, which is really fun. And so, basically, and we got to see it on an IMAX screen. So not in 3D, but on a really serious IMAX screen, like what would you normally be used for a planetarium. And the more I see the film, I just, I grow to really appreciate all the work done by all the actors and the actresses, by the producers, by the directors, by the writers. There's just so much hard work that goes into these films, and I really appreciate everything they've done. I really appreciated Paul Casey doing the work to bring Admiral Raddus alive, and he really is alive in this film. But one of the reasons why I'm so big on Admiral Raddus, this alien in Rogue One, is it makes me really think about what purpose do aliens serve in the Star Wars canon, right? And in my opinion, it is diversity, right? Diversity is important in that I truly believe we need to be open to having a vibrant culture that are filled with different people who want to come together and form a nation. So I think about diversity from an American perspective. I think we're incredibly blessed to have people from all over the world who come here and become Americans, which I think is a great thing. And I think from the very beginning, with Lando from Empire Strikes Back, I think you really started to see some significant diversity within Star Wars from a human perspective. Lando Calrissian, from back in the 80s, was doing a great job of making sure that African Americans were in Star Wars overall, and really important. But Chewbacca was there, from the first one, and that I think that is saying, that I think the purpose of aliens in Star Wars is to continue to promote diversity, saying that our cultures should be created by people from different parts of the world, and that we should get the best of their culture, right? A nation should take the best of the cultures of the people who are there and combine those together to have freedom. And so that's one of the reasons why I like Admiral Raddus. I've always liked how diverse the Star Wars world is. It really is, it just has everybody is in there that I think should be in there, and it's heartwarming. And so I really liked Admiral Raddus from that perspective. Now, from a practical perspective of what Admiral Raddus meant, he's a really important character to the rebellion. So, and one of the things that, I really like thinking about each character, because they kind of show you the shape of the film. And so one of the things with Admiral Raddus is, when you're looking at Admiral Raddus, he has two key scenes in Rogue One. He is talking with Mon Mothma and Cowan Jabel, right? And all these other rebellion leaders, right? Now, I was about to say Rebel Alliance, but we're really not there yet. We're dealing with the rebellion in Rogue One. You have, Saw Gerrera, and you have Mon Mothma, and you have General Dravitz. You have all these guys who are doing this work, and women who are doing the work of fighting the Empire. But I don't think you really have an alliance yet. You really don't. Basically, or it's really tenuous. And they did a great job of this in the Rogue One movie, of showing just how tenuous this alliance was and how hard it was to bring it together. So there's a scene where all the rebel leaders are debating. They have the information about the Death Star, the plans for the Death Star. Jyn Erso is right there. Cassian Andor is right there. They're trying to convince them to send the fleet, right? Get the plans, send the fleet, right? And some of the members are like, hey, all we have to go on is the word of the daughter of an Imperial scientist, the words of a dead Imperial scientist. There's not enough here to put our people into a big push where a lot of people are going to die, right? And Admiral Raddus, one of the things that I really liked about him is he showed how much the rebellion needed intelligence, right? Cassian Andor has an incredible amount of courage. He has urgency. He has dedication, right? But Admiral Raddus is bringing intelligence to this whole party, right? And he's a very, very bright guy, and he is listening to Jyn Erso, and he says, "Let's fight." Right, and that's one of my favorite lines in the film, is Admiral saying, "I think we should fight," and actually that is what he says. He says, "I think we should fight," and there's just so much spirit being shown by Admiral Raddus, and he's just such a great character. Right now, the other thing is he is an admiral, right? So so after we get to see the scene with him and the rebel leaders, we get to see Admiral Raddus doing his thing. And this is one of the things that just you don't get this anywhere else in any other world, right? So one of the other things that we get to see from Admiral Raddus's perspective is the leadership of what it takes to make these starfighter battles work, right? And so we've all seen Poe Dameron, we've all seen Luke Skywalker, we've all seen these hotshot X-wing pilots. But here, Admiral Raddus is showing how an admiral does the work that it takes to win a star battle, right? And actually, in my opinion, Rogue One has the best star battle in any Star Wars movie. And there are some incredible star battles. I think Return of the Jedi really was amazing. It really was. But just I think one of the things I really liked about Rogue One is how far-ranging this battle is. You see these large capital-sized ships battling, and that's Admiral Raddus's milieux. Now, he has incredible knowledge and control of where his starfighters are at all times, right? The other thing that I thought was really interesting is, just Admiral Raddus is such a complex character, right? So not only is he has this small team around him, and they're constantly giving him information, right? But he's also looking down. He's in a suspended chair looking down on this bubble, right? And so he's using his own physical eyes to see where everything is in the battle. He's using computers, and he's also has his people giving him information. So he's using his own physical sight. He's using auditory information coming in from his trusted advisors, right? From his trusted analysts, from his intelligence gatherers, and he's also using computers himself, right? And just so much, or at minimum, he's taking in the data from the computers that are being used by his intelligence analyst, right? So it's just really, you know, as a knowledge worker, it was really fascinating to me to see a knowledge worker doing his job, right? So Admiral Raddus, you know, generally his job is not going to be, you know, physical dexterity flying his ship. He needs to have extremely good knowledge of where all his ships are, where the enemy ships are coming in. And then here's the other thing that's really fascinating about Admiral Raddus. He has to use human beings and people of his own species. He has to use sentient beings as tools, right? And be willing to lose them, right? And so without a doubt, he's like, get in there, get that gate down, start probing the gate, you know, and like he says it with gusto. He doesn't hesitate to give these orders, but he's sending men and women to their death, right? And I think one of the reasons why is when you're at his level, when you play the game at his level, you cannot hesitate to use the tools at hand in the way that they are meant to be used. And now, you know, soldiers, you know, they do their job. And I think, you know, we've reached a time in our day where a lot of people are really, really hesitant to allow soldiers to actually serve the purpose that they have all chosen to serve, right? And so Admiral Raddus is in there, and he's saying, I'm going to fight this battle the way a battle should be fought. I'm going to send people to get tasks done at exactly the second they need to get done, and that means that they're going to go into the face of danger. And I'm going to trust them to rely on their abilities to succeed or to fail. And if they fail, right, then I'm going to respect that this is what they chose to do, and they are giving their life for the rebel, right, for the rebellion. And I think what Admiral Raddus was pushing toward being an alliance, right? Now let's talk about Admiral Raddus making the decision to bring in his fleet, his Mon Calamari fleet, right? Actually, one of the things that's really interesting is there are Mon Calamari ships. They're like kind of bulbous, right? And actually, I don't remember seeing any of those in Rogue One. He's got corvettes. He's got blockade runners. He's got really rebellion capital ships in Rogue One, right? Which means that Admiral Raddus is really not bringing a lot of, from what it looked like to me, Admiral Raddus was really not bringing a lot of Mon Calamari ships, right? So that means that, you know, generally it looks like Admiral Raddus showed up with the rebellion, and they're like, hey, we will use your skills even though you're not bringing a lot to the table as far as ships, right? Now, I think that's great. You know, you basically, especially at this point where the rebellion is nascent, they really need to have, you know, people at the top of their game doing everything they needed. And I think Admiral Raddus, he is highly, you know, like basically every part had to be, every cylinder had to be firing right in order for everything to happen the way it happened in Rogue One. So, you know, the Rogue One team needed to go right when they did. So Jyn Erso's like, I want to go. And Chirrut Imwe and Baze Malbus and Cassian Andor and all those men, you know, said, we're in, let's roll. You know what I mean? And they went right there. And it would not have worked if Admiral Raddus had said, you know what, I'm going too. And I'm bringing all of these rebellion ships, right? Now, Admiral Raddus, in order to get that many ships out of there, right, he had to have the command and the respect of the men and women that piloted those ships, because it was an unsanctioned military action. So that's exactly, like actually terms for what he did, right? So Admiral Raddus took an unsanctioned military action, which was, you know, pretty amazing, right? And it worked out. Now, if it had not worked out, he would have lost a lot of ships, and he did lose some ships. Woo! You know, he lost starfighters, he lost capital ships, you know, and I think that's one of the things I think is cool about Admiral Raddus is he's like, I am an admiral. I'm going to do what an admiral does. I'm going to use ships like pawns. I'm going to lose some, and I'm going to take some. You know what I mean? And I'm going to take more than I lost, right? And he did, right? He got the job done. And that is really, really, you know, just the competence displayed by Admiral Raddus, and the intelligence displayed by Admiral Raddus, and also an absolute dedication to being the role that he was, which was an admiral, right? So, you know, there's just so much going on with Admiral Raddus, and to get him to see him in that chair, looking down, seeing Blue Squadron, seeing Red Squadron, sending them here, sending them there. Oh, and then, oh, man, there's just so many things that are awesome about Admiral Raddus. Another thing about Admiral Raddus, he has these flares of inspiration, right? And it was just so interesting seeing, you know, how the job of Admiral is done, because I think they really captured this in Rogue One, right? So one of the things is they have the shield gate, right? Now, immediately when he got in there, they were probing the shield gate. So they did. Admiral Raddus did a whole bunch of things. He got X-wings through that gate right away, right? And also even got extra reinforcements for the people who were on the ground through these U-wings. These new U-wings are these new types of starfighters that are in Rogue One, right? At the very beginning, Cassian Andor has a U-wing. They escaped from Jedha in a U-wing with K2SO flying through all the debris from Jedha, from the Holy City being destroyed, right? Very, very interesting. So he gets this U-wing down there, right? And all these, you know, basically, so he has all his ships there. But one of the things that was really interesting was they came to a point where they've been probing, they've been trying to get through, you know, this gate. He never gives up. He's still, you know, he's staying on it. He hears that they need to be able to shoot these plans up through the gate, right? They need to get that gate down, right? So that they can get the plans sent up from the surface, right? So what he says is, he says, bring me a Hammerhead Corvette, right? And then he says, I have an idea, right? He didn't know this was going to work, right? You know, which I thought was awesome. You know, so like, I think I get the idea that like a Hammerhead Corvette, the way he was using it probably wasn't too normal, right? I think they probably used them as maybe tugboats, like, you know, to get ships, you know, here and there, or maybe to ram a starfighter that was, you know, maybe a bit injured, those kind of things, right? But he uses a Hammerhead Corvette. They nail that thing into like the armpit of this Star Destroyer, and then just use one Star Destroyer to cut off the top of another Star Destroyer, and then the wreck of those two Star Destroyers falls on the gate and breaks the gate, right? Now that's all Admiral Raddus. Like that is all Admiral Raddus, right? So that is him knowing the equipment he has, using his equipment at the exact right time, and also being willing to send his, you know, the men and women who serve him into danger. Now, I do think he did everything he could to preserve them, but he also did everything he could to let every single person who had chosen to be a soldier underneath him fulfill that role. And, you know, really, really fascinating. So, Admiral Raddus, you know, he had a lot of spunk in him. He did this unsanctioned military action, which was successful, and I think, you know, cemented him as a key member of the Rebel Alliance, right? And as a, you know, more than an individual contributor, he was, you know, really a leader, right? And so I think Admiral Raddus is one of the most fascinating characters in the whole movie to me. I really like that Admiral Raddus is there. I want to see a lot more of the Mon Calamari in movies to come. I'm really glad that Star Wars is beginning to flesh out some of the races that we got to see from the original trilogy. Honestly, I am a fan of the prequels. I would really like to see more of the races from the prequels come out. And also, so just so you're aware, like, you know, I think because of how a lot of people felt about the prequels, there's been kind of a backing off of using a lot of the races from the prequels. But I would really like to see Zabraks done, as well as we're starting to get to see the Mon Calamari. But Admiral Raddus overall, super intelligent guy, served his role, dedicated to the Rebel Alliance, and actually delivered when he needed to deliver. Really, really fascinating character, and I really love Rogue One, and I really, really liked Admiral Raddus. Fantastic character. Take care, everybody.